Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. Happy St. Paddy's Day to everybody out there who celebrates their Irish heritage. If there's anybody out there, or if anybody's eating corned beef and cabbage tonight or already had it. So we're going to get into our budget hearings again tonight. And we have the town clerk here, Pam Labonte, Mr. Mark Centerizio, Chairman of the Planning Board. And I know Mr. Kevin Gallagher, our fire chief, will be here at some point. And we have Julie here to discuss the selectmen's budgets. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit out of order tonight because I think Mark's budget is probably going to be the easiest one to get through.
Thank you very much, sir.
So I was thinking of going through having Mark present his budget first, if everybody's okay with that. First of all, do I have a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, our meeting is open. And this meeting can be viewed on our local cable channel 18 for anybody that's interested. So Mark, the floor is yours and you can present your budget.
Well, I'm a new guy in this whole thing because Henry used to do it and Donna used to do it. I don't know if you have a file in front of you, sir, but we have always been, it's minus 100%. We've done it, but I have lost my planner. I have lost my secretary. I would like to propose an extra between $50,000 and $55,000 for a new planner in the future. And that's the only thing I can have to add to that. I don't know if Miss Julie is here tonight.
Yes, she is.
And if you have anything else you'd like to say to that, Julie, but we do need a new planner. We have a master plan coming up. We have many things to go. I think the new planner would bring about somewhere between $50,000 and $54,000 per year on a 35-hour basis. I'm not sure how it goes. I never did this before, so if anybody on the finance committee can help me, I would be more receptive. Thank you, Julie.
No, hey, I agree. I mean, I think the only change that we've talked about for planning, we plugged in a preliminary number of $50,000 for the planner salary. It's something that we're going to work on posting soon. You know, we unfortunately didn't have this position on our wage in class that was adopted 2 years ago. So, you know, Jim has been a big help, Jim Merritt, our building commissioner, in trying to come up with, you know, a wage grade and salary for what a full-time planner would be. And obviously we've talked a lot, you know, when Henry was here, his position was a bit controversial because he did a little bit of everything. And so we've talked about kind of separating things out and having this new position just be town planner, where the person can, you know, obviously manage everything for the planning board and hopefully work on, you know, the master plan. So we plugged in $50,000 for an estimated budget for that salary right now. And obviously that's up for comment if you'd like, but we think that that's a good starting point for this position.
If you have any questions from the finance committee, we would be more than welcome to take them. I don't have an answer for you for everything, but Julie is much smarter than me. She's done a great job. And I'm not a planner. I'm a junk man. I'm sorry. I apologize. And anything the finance committee can do to bring this about, I would appreciate it.
I do have a question in regards to of all the folks here, or most of the folks, I'm not really was familiar with Henry and the jobs that he did there, but in terms of the new planning position, what I recall Henry was proposing, he was going to be doing the master plan along with whatever else he does. I guess my question is, does a town planner, that $50,000 that you're talking about budgeting, would he be still encompassing the entire master planning project, or would there be more additional monies needed later to complete that master plan and above and beyond that salary?
So I think, I mean, the hope is that part of the job description for this position would include assisting in the master plan. We would definitely need other assistance in the master plan, and I've talked to SERPED, and we're working on getting a grant through SERPED to help cover some of the costs, the outside costs for the master plan that would be needed. I think it would be something that we'd have to look into to see if there are any costs that wouldn't be covered by the grant that we would have to still budget for, that would again be outside of the salary. But I think the hope is that this person will be able to kind of cover a lot of that ground with the salary. And I'll mention too, Henry, his position was quote unquote part-time for the planning board. So there was a lot of times where there wasn't coverage in the office. And I know Donna did a lot of coverage for us. And so losing her was a big loss as well.
Absolutely.
So the thought process, yeah. So the thought process too is that we really need someone to be present in that office all the time, or at least, while the town buildings are open. So that's kind of added into there too, is, making it so that this person would be the full-time person, and then any kind of secretary would be, part-time, and doing like recording minutes and things like that.
Okay, so we don't really have an idea what the additional monies would be at the moment for a master plan itself.
I believe the last master plan cost us somewhere in the vicinity of $15,000. I don't know if that's correct or not. I don't know if the people on the finance committee know that, but you have to have public hearings. You have to you have to do it by the criteria of the Mass General bylaws. And it's a big thing. It doesn't happen overnight. This is a 20-year, the master plan is a 20-year plan to help the town of Acushnet make ourselves better. So I don't know if anybody on the board would like to speak about that, or Julie. Julie has done a phenomenal job. We have Pam. Pam has done a phenomenal job. If there's anything on any people that want to ask on the finance committee, I hope I can answer it. I'm not the smartest person in the whole world, but I will try my best.
Yeah, I think you're right. I wasn't here obviously when we did the last master plan. The cost, I think on average, for a small town, the cost can go up to as much as 50,000, but that again would take part of the salary into play, that we'd be paying this person. They would be doing work in-house on the master plan, but there are a lot. I mean, again, I'm no expert with master plans either, but any kind of specialty work, or doing out maps and things like that, you might need engineers. So any of those like outside costs, we're hoping we could get a lot of it covered with a grant from SERPED. And I think SERPED, whether we get it this year or next year, we're definitely on their radar for receiving one of those grants. And again, they do a lot of technical assistance on it, but I don't know how much we would get for the grant, and how much it would cover of those excess costs. So once we get all that information, we'll get it to you. But again, the hope is that we can get most of this covered by the salary for the planner that's already built in, and the grant that we would get from SERPED.
Thanks, Julie.
Mark, I have a question, Mark.
Go ahead, sir.
Is our current master plan current, or is it set to expire?
It's set to expire. It's a 20-year master plan. I don't have all the particulars of the last 20 years that we did, but I believe that we covered on the master plan for the last time, we covered 3/4 of what we wanted to do on the master plan. I don't have it in front of me. I don't have the books in front of me, but Henry did a phenomenal job. And we, out of everything we did 3/4 of what we wanted to do on the master plan. It's a very big project. It's not a 5-minute or a 10-minute or a 1 month or 2 month project. It is a project that's gonna last us, it's gonna take us a year to do it. You have to have public hearings. You want the public to come in and talk about it. And last time, the master plan, the most everything wanted was, we don't want a lot of business. We want to be a farm town. And it's not happening. A lot of people are putting solar arrays in. A lot of people have, if you don't want a solar array, you're gonna have to put a subdivision in. And it's many, many different things. We want what the people of the Acushnet want to do for the master plan.
What year is it set to expire?
I believe this year it's gonna expire.
So 2020, 2021, it will expire.
I would have to look into that, correct. So it's another 20-year master plan.
So right now also, do we have any grants that are like pending? And without a master planner, can those grants go forward?
I do not have an answer for you, sir. I'm
Okay.
just trying to tell you, Henry was phenomenal at his job. And I would have to look into it. I've been covering, Donna had a heart attack, Henry left. I'm trying to do the best that I can, but I do not have an answer for that. I know it's for the next 20 years, whatever the town people of Acushnet want, we're gonna try to get.
Okay, appreciate that, Mark.
I think,
Maybe a question on,
Go ahead, John.
yes, a question on the bond rating, is it connected with?
John, I don't mean
We
to
have
be
a good rating,
disrespectful, but
it is due
Can't hear you,
to
John.
having a master plan.
John, you're breaking up.
Yeah.
We can't hear you.
Okay.
okay, I don't mean to be disrespectful,
Yep,
but we can't hear him.
my internet is unstable, getting. Okay, bond rating, with with the master plan. You have to have an active master plan in order to have a good credit rating. Is that linked?
We just had the bond rating.
Sorry.
Updated. No, it's okay. So, it was 2019, because it was right when Brian left that we did the bond rating, and we got our bond rating increased. And if I remember correctly, they did ask about the master plan. That was a portion of, the narrative that we had to give them was, what is our, not necessarily maybe the master plan. I think they asked about it, but then specifically like what things have we done in the past and what things are we looking to do in the future and how are we achieving it? So having that, a model of what we're looking for the future is definitely something that's taken into consideration, making sure we have goals and that we're moving toward meeting them and that we know what we're going to bring for the town in terms of economics for the future. It was definitely a big part of that discussion with Standard & Poor's. So I would say yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else in the committee would like to ask any questions, please?
Oh, looks like you're off the hook, Mark. I don't think there's any
Oh,
more.
thank
questions.
you. You're making my night easy. Thank you very much to all of you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, you guys do a phenomenal job. I don't know how you do it every single year. You guys put up with many, many different things, and I can't thank you enough. And if there's anything we can do on the planning board to make it easier, I'm sorry that Henry's not here and Donna had a heart attack and everything else, but if there's anything else we can do to make it work, we do have to have a master plan. And I believe if Julie would reiterate it, if we don't have a master plan, we do not have a grade or whatever it's called to make this work for the town of Acushnet.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
We're not going to vote on the budget tonight. So if we have any questions down the line, we'll be in touch. But thanks again for coming out tonight and presenting it.
Thank you very much for our time. I appreciate everything you guys do. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care, Mark.
Bye.
Stay safe.
You too, Bob.
Okay, I think Pam's still here, I believe. So I would,
Yeah, she is.
hi Pam. All right, so Pam, you're up to bat. We have Miss Pam Labonte, our town clerk. She's going to present her budget to us tonight.
Pam, we can't hear you.
I think you're on mute, Pam.
She's not on mute.
No.
No?
There's an issue.
Oh, now you're muted. Okay.
But she's not like it's the phone. It's almost like she doesn't have the audio set up on her computer.
Maybe she didn't hit join with audio.
Can't hear
Yeah.
you.
Who's on it? Is,
Yeah,
is Eric on here tonight?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can unmute her. I don't think I can though.
No, because she, like Mike's right, she didn't join with audio, so I don't
I
think
think
Eric
that's
can help her
the
with that.
problem.
Oh, she's
Yeah,
on.
try with your phone.
Yep, she can
Do you
either
need the phone number, Pam?
Just-
if she like leaves the
Oh, there's Pam.
come back in, and she might be able to go into the audio that way.
Not yes, if you need the number, Pam.
Oh, she looks like she's got the number because when she's entering the
keep-
digits off
Right, she has the number.
herself
okay.
with her phone, so she's definitely got the number.
She's
Are you
on,
waiting?
but she's on, but you have to unmute her. Eric, can you do that?
No,
I can't unmute her
No.
on my end.
Are you waiting to get let in, Pam?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
we can.
Yay!
Yay.
There you are.
Thank you. Okay, sorry about that.
All right. That's the joys of Zoom.
Okay, it's amazing everything we've gone through over the last year and how far we've all come. It's and I'm still having technical problems.
I hear you.
But thank you all for having me tonight. And I think I'll start out with the easiest budget this year, which is the Board of Registrars. And I know I sent to Kathy my narrative, a breakdown. So I think you all have that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the very first line item is the salaries, the temporary salaries, and that's the salaries for the registrars. I level funded this from FY21. However, with the fact that I went from having 3 elections down to just 1 election, I have opted to increase the registrars and give them a 2% increase to try to help keep in line with the other contracts that we have going on in town and the other staff. Right now, I still have only 2 registrars, and they are incredible and do so much work for me, from putting up signs around town, advertising for the elections, right down to doing the paperwork and the settling of the elections afterwards. So I would not be able to do what I do without them. And I did list what some of their responsibilities are, which includes the preparation and execution of the annual town election for this coming year, the vote by mail processing, which was just approved through the governor, that we will now be able to do vote by mail versus the absentee ballots up through June 30th of this year, through 2021. It also includes the certification of petitions and nomination papers and the preparation of processing of annual street listings. Okay. The next one is the voting, programming and movers. This line item was reduced $2,000, and this covers the amount of the programming for each voting machine that we have. That's something that they put in list all of the ballot candidates, and it helps to do all the calculations at the end of the day. So I do anticipate that we will be rolling out our new equipment this year, which thanks to town meeting vote a few years ago, we were able to get that approved. I do expect that the first year's maintenance fees will be included in the cost of the purchase in the new equipment. But I'm not completely sure of what the exact dollar amount is going to be. So I'm hoping that I won't need to come back to the finance committee. I think I'll be safe for this year. And the street voting and census, that's level funded for FY 2020. And even though we process the street listing, the annual street listing in-house, we do the printing, the stuffing, the mailing, and get that all out to every resident or every household in town. Once we get all of that information back, we need to do the data entry and update all of the voters and the residents that are living in town. And this needs to be compiled and then needs to be put into a formal permanent record. And so this helps with the printing and the publication of the document. And this also goes out annually to each individual department that we have in town. The office supplies, I've level funded that, and of course that's for general office supplies, but this particular category is related strictly to elections and town meetings. So none of these funds are dedicated to the town clerk's office. And then travel, that line item is also level funded from FY 2022. We're using that for elections and census related training. And one thing that really has more or less fallen by the wayside this year was all of the excitement regarding the 2020 federal census. And that was kind of overtaken by COVID. And but that is still a real thing. And it is something that we still need to move forward with. So we will be finalizing that this year. And that's going to include moving precincts. So we may end up having some precinct changes. And this training is encompassed in that particular line item. So that's my registrar's budget. Does anyone have any questions? Nope. Okay, I'll move on to the next. The next budget I'll do is I'll save the town clerk budget for last. Will be the town meeting and elections line item. And one of the things that I've been trying very hard to do is bring up the election staff up to at least minimum wage for my inspectors, and then a little bit more for the wardens and the clerks. And we did that a few years ago. Actually, it might have been last year. I brought the inspectors up to $11, the clerks to $12, and then the wardens to $12.50. So what I'm hoping to do this year is increase the inspectors to $13.50, which is the current minimum wage, the clerks to $14.50, and the wardens to $15. Now, with that being said, I've had some individuals that have approached me and they strictly want to volunteer their time. They do not want to be paid. And that is something I will be working with Kathy Muller, our treasurer collector, on whether that's something that is possible for us to do, if they sign a waiver. So there may be, if possible, there may be the opportunity for those individuals that do want to volunteer to just volunteer. In the past, that was something that was, with the previous administrations, that was something that was not allowed. Everyone needed to be paid for their positions. So that's something I will be researching in the coming months to finalize before FY 2022. Any questions with that?
Pam, can I ask a question real quick?
Sure,
Just
absolutely.
real quickly, if you could you tell or define the job title between an inspector and a clerk? Is it a qualification? Is it an appointment position?
All of the positions, Eric, are appointed. And the inspectors are the individuals that do the check-ins. And I will be completely honest. I know there was a lot of advertisement that pretty much anyone that has a pulse for the last elections was welcome to work the elections. The reality of it is accuracy is extremely important. And if we have inspectors or clerks or wardens that are making mistakes and affecting the numbers of the elections, not only does that hamper our ability to settle the, balance the elections appropriately, but it also undermines the integrity of the elections. And that's something that I've been very, very stressed, very much, that's the importance. We've gotten so much negative publicity, and I will tell you, it's been very, very hurtful for those that are on the line, actually making sure that these elections ran with the utmost integrity, and also making sure that we balanced the way we should be. So it is important that regardless, they do need to have some sort of qualification. The clerks are responsible for creating the diary of the day, of the events of what happens. So if we have a fire drill unexpectedly, or as we had a number of years ago when we were at the community center, we had, there was a problem with the oil tank, and we needed to evacuate the building. When something like that happens, it's important that the clerk or the warden is then able to document that situation.
Okay.
And if there's a problem with the ballot machines, the clerk is responsible for recording that. And the warden, of course, is responsible for overseeing everything at the precinct. So making sure, again, that if someone comes in and says that their name should be on the list, it's helping them to process provisional ballots and making sure that everything's going as smoothly as possible.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, all you people have done an excellent job. I've gone through on elections. I've seen you there a couple of times, and everyone's done a great job. I was just kind of more curious for myself, the difference in the titles. I appreciate your explanation, Pam.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you appreciate the staff, because they are so hardworking, and every year they make me prouder and prouder. And after this election, my hat's off to all of them. They all deserve it because they did a wonderful job.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay, so we'll move on to the town clerk's budget. The town clerk's salary that has been level funded and will fall in line with all of the other department heads. I have not asked for an adjustment or an increase on this particular particular line item since 2019. However, I have to be frank, over the last year, working multiple months, 7 days a week, I feel that it's definitely, this one is definitely worthy of an increase for this year. The next line item is my clerical staff. And I know that we were asked to level fund, and this has been a very much a challenge, not over just the last year, but I had a long-standing employee that was with us, and she pretty much could handle everything with her eyes closed. And I'm now in the situation where I have a new individual that has come in. She's now been with me for roughly about a year and a half. But the amount of work has increased so dramatically in the town clerk's office that I'm actually afraid that I'm going to lose her because it's become such a challenge. We've been closed to the public, as most of the other departments have been. However, once the building department established a temporary walkway to access our office with our service window, we have been regularly scheduling individuals to come to the service window. And we've been encouraging them to do so they don't feel as though, we don't want them to feel as though the town is not there when they need us. And I mean, we've had meeting notices that come into our office that are continuously revised. This all takes time. Doing the dog licenses, people are choosing to do everything by mail or by the drop box because of COVID. Now, is that all going to go away? Yes, absolutely. However, there are so many projects in the town clerk's office that are suffering because I, as the administrator, am waiting on customers on a regular basis. And that honestly is my passion. I love working with the customers. However, in order for me to be an effective department head, I need to be able to focus on the administrative needs of the office. And I'll give you one example. We've moved over to the Parting Ways building. And since we've done that, we've moved over the majority of the town clerk records. But there needs to be a complete reorganization of all of the records at the town hall to make sure that those that are vital records, that those are secured in the proper manner. I have not been able to do a destruction in over a year because the individual that I have in the office as my senior clerk working 19 hours, this is just not enough hours in the day or in the week for her to include that in her position. So there are a number of things that do still need to be done. And I mean, the destruction project has been a really well-oiled machine, getting the records in, keeping them as long for their records, and then being able to get them destroyed. That has been a tremendous help, I think, for all of the departments. When they need a record, they're able to find it rather quickly, unlike in, previously when we didn't have the program, there were some records that you couldn't even find. So there are projects, the bylaw project that has been on my plate for the longest time. I have updated them, but I want to continue to work with a company to get these bylaws updated as the changes with the planning board and the board of selectmen take place. But I'm only one person, and it's been quite a struggle. So my recommendation for this year is to increase the senior clerk's position to 30 hours. Now, I do realize that that is quite a jump. And if absolutely necessary, I would be willing to pretty much cut that in half and opt for at least a minimum of 6 hours for this year, with the intention that I would be coming back next year for at least a 30-hour position at a minimum. Okay. Any questions
Can I
on
make a
that?
comment here?
Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Mark.
As being on the planning board, we have had many, many solar arrays to come to the town of Acushnet. And each one of these solar arrays have 9 copies of 9,000 papers that everybody in the town clerk's office has to time stamp every single page on this. And God bless their 3 beautiful young ladies in the town clerk's office. They do a wonderful job. I think it's a pain in the butt myself, I'm telling you right now. But this is where the legalities are. We have had, within the last month, 4 solar arrays with a minimum of 4,000 pages that have to be time stamped on every page. And Pam and Nancy and Vicky do a phenomenal job. But the rest of the world has no idea they have to do this. In order to put it all together, they have to time, and I am only on one board. I don't know what they have to do for the rest of the boards, but they do a phenomenal job. It's a pain in the butt. I believe that they deserve every amount of money they do. It's unbelievable. Unless you want to come down and take a look at it, come to the planning board office. I'll show you how many papers they have to time stamp before we can have a regular meeting. My time is out.
Thank you, Mark. And I honestly did not pay him for that, for that comment. But thank you. I do appreciate that.
No, it's just, it's a lot of work. God bless you.
Thank you. And one of the other things that I didn't mention is that the makeup of my office, we used to have a full-time senior clerk, a part-time senior clerk at 25 hours, and then I was working full-time. And when we made the change back in, I think it was 2017, to officially recognize the importance of the town clerk position and the need for someone to be there every day, that really changed things, because pretty much, quite frankly, I was giving half of my hours to the town at no salary. And what's happened is, now that I'm working full-time, I'm receiving the full-time salary, there has been a reduction in the staff, and it's overwhelming. It really is. So to have a 19-hour employee and a 25-hour employee, that pretty much equals only one full-timer other than myself. And if we are not the busiest, we are at least the second busiest. And I can tell you, the collector's office is amazingly busy. So it's definitely something that we're not looking at this as a wish. We're really looking at it as a need. Okay. So I'll move down to the temporary salaries. That was level funded from 2021. And this account is pretty much used anytime staff is absent. If someone is on vacation, if someone is out sick, and another staff member needs to kick in the extra hours, so the other part-timer. Overtime, this also was level funded from last year. And primarily this is used, because I have 2 part-timers, this is primarily used for any of the union staff that are full-time that work the rabies clinic. Last year and this year, we do not have a rabies clinic. However, I do need to be prepared that in 2022, things are going to be better and we're going to be back into a better routine. So I am anticipating that we will bring that back next year. Longevity, that is level funded, and that's a contractual obligation. Currently, I only have 1 employee that has been with me for 16 years. So that's for her. R&M office equipment, again, that's level funded, and that's used for my maintenance agreements and repairs and equipment. Vital statistics. Last year, I zeroed out this line item, and I zeroed it out with knowing that the budgets were so tight. This line item is used to take all of our birth, death, and marriage vital records, the permanent copies, and they need to be bound and stored for archiving purposes. So where I did not do it last year, where it did all work out because the gentleman, due to COVID, he did not do the binding for last year. But I need to at least make sure that I don't fall too far behind in that process. So, so I'm asking to bring back that $600. Office supplies, again, that's that item I did reduce $300. Software expense, this is, I've reduced this line item $300 with anticipation that in 2022, we will need to go either before the Finance Committee or for a special article at town meeting for a new dog program. The dog program that we've had for roughly, I believe, 12, no, it might be 11 years, is no longer supported by the vendor. And currently we have the dog program on our old server. And pretty much weekly, I am being hounded by our IT person, who I absolutely love, that we need to make a move before I lose all of that information. So that is something that I'm working on as a capital expense, possibly for this year. But I don't anticipate I'll have that software programming fees for next year. Dog licenses, that I've level funded from last year, and that's for the purchasing of the brass dog tags, along with any additional supplies we might need for the annual rabies clinic. Travel and meals, again, that has been level funded from last year. And I want to thank the Finance Committee, because with your continued support, we've been able to maintain having a certified town clerk in the town. So I appreciate that. Dues and subscriptions, I did increase that $50 because some of our subscriptions have gone, our dues have gone up, and I've listed what I'm currently enrolled in for institutions. Bonding, of course, that's a standard. Fortunately, this one has remained at $100 since I have been here. So that's for 12 years. So that's level funded. And then additional equipment, again, that's level funded from last year.
Thanks for presenting that, Pam. Great presentation. Does any members have any questions for Pam? Go ahead, Gail.
Let me just make sure. All right, you can hear me. Your salary's clerical, and you talked about wanting to boost your senior clerk by 11 hours. Is that increase in here?
Yes,
is that
it
reflected? So in addition, so that 11,880 that you referenced, that's separate.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, no, no, no. The total that I'm looking for would be the 60,117.
Okay,
So without,
and that includes the increase in 11 hours
it does.
fully.
Yes, it does.
Do you
Yes.
know what those 11, what is the cost of those 11 hours per, I don't know, per year, I guess, what's that?
I'm not sure that I understand the question.
You're increasing hours by 11 hours over the
Yeah.
course of the year. What does that add up to? You've
For the
increased,
total,
you've included a number here for that
Yes.
position's increase. So what is
Yeah.
the annual, what does it cost?
oh, the annual, well, the total cost is the 11,000. But are you asking me the total number of hours?
No, I want to know what the 11 hours are going to cost the town. I don't know how
That-
else to say it.
Pam,
How-
how much an hour does
Yeah.
she get paid?
$20.77 an hour.
Okay, I can find that out for you.
So
11,000.
If you
If you do 11 hours times the $20 an hour, 52 weeks, that's 11,440 again.
Okay, so, and this 11,880 that you put in your explanation as a contractual union bargaining agreement, that's separate, that's something different than this increase.
That is separate. Yes, I
Okay.
explained that further down. I'm sorry if I didn't
No,
make.
that's
that clear.
okay. I just was not, I was fuzzy on whether this increase in hours was factored in, but it is, so I'm good.
It is, yes, yes.
Pam, if we do the increase in the hours, that takes her to 30 hours. What about benefits and things like that? Maybe that's a Julie-
It would be a benefited position, which it was previously.
Okay, so no change there. I just want to make
Right.
sure we're factoring in all of the pieces.
Well, let me say that it was benefited. And then the new individual that came in, we reduced the hours down to 19 hours. So in other words, now she's not benefited. But the position was previous to her.
Position was before, okay, but when
Yes.
we increase it to 30 hours, she'll now be eligible for health insurance and anything else that we have. So that's an additional cost.
That is true. Yes.
Is that factored in? Right, Gail, you want to know the all-in, right?
Well,
I think that's.
I didn't even, honestly, Sue, the benefits didn't even factor into my question, but it's a good point.
Yeah, so I guess so is that component factored in, Julie, for regards to benefits? Okay.
Well, that's not in her budget per se, but
Right.
yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, if the person were to take benefits, that is an additional cost that would come onto the town because it's going full-time.
But it's not, I guess all I'm saying is that aspect of the additional cost isn't factored in yet.
No, not into the town clerk's budget.
Or, I mean, in health insurance, whatever budget that would impact, have we accounted for it? Probably.
Nope.
Okay. So that
And it's kind of hard too with health insurance. The health insurance we'll get to later. We had a 0% increase on our premium, but we always have people who come on and come off the insurance. So it's like hard, you could budget additional money for it, but then if the person doesn't choose to take the insurance, it's definitely something to consider, but we don't always necessarily bump up by that exact amount.
No, yeah, understood.
What is,
And insurance is the main other
yeah.
component.
Yeah.
And what is the monthly cost to the town on average for the worst case? You have a family plan. Do you know roughly?
I think, if I remembered correctly from before, the estimates were like $15,000 to $17,000 a year for a family plan, PPO.
Yeah, and that's the cost to the town alone?
Yep.
Okay, wow, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Pam, I have a question.
Sure.
Do you foresee that 30-hour position staying that way in the near future?
Yes, I do. I do.
Like
If
long term?
It really depends on the needs of the office. And I can tell you, with all of the legal changes that have taken place and the more demands that are taking place in the office, including public records requests, that's something that was never factored in. And I'm hoping that with this wage and classification for the clerical staff, that they'll be able to see what the actual needs of the office are. But I don't see things getting less as far as the workload. The town is growing, and we're in a position where things are constantly changing, whether it's new people coming in, new people, people leaving. So there's that constant fluctuation. So I don't foresee it changing. I will say that if the board was to say that they would, at least meet me halfway for the 6 hours, I would definitely be back next year for 30 because there really is a need.
Okay.
Okay, and I say that to be an effective town clerk with all of the legal changes that have taken place, I do need to focus more of my attention on the administrative versus the clerical things that my staff should actually be doing and have the time to do.
Right, and I understand that the paperwork and the data entry, all that stuff is very time consuming. I know because I deal with it myself on a daily basis in my business, and it's like I'm sitting there at my computer and it's like, oh my God, I took up an hour just typing this stuff, and it's mind boggling at times. I get it. So we'll have to see how we can manage things going forward, but you gave a great presentation. I appreciate it. We're not going to be voting on the budget tonight. If we have any questions down the line, we'll reach out to you if anything comes up. Does anybody else have any questions for Pam tonight? I guess not. So I think we're free to go.
Okay, thank you so much. I know I took up more time than what I should have, but I really do appreciate you allowing me this time.
No, you did a great job, Pam. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Kathy, is Chief Gallagher expected to join the meeting?
No, I
Oh, he.
guess he hadn't been in front of the selectmen yet, so
Oh, okay. All right. So no Chief Gallagher tonight. So Julie, you want to present the Board of Selectmen budget?
Sure. Which budgets do you want to go through? Because I always get confused with this. What's the selectmen's budgets entail? I can, the other thing too, and I know it's hard to get updates to you guys not meeting in person. Usually I have like a whole packet that I have copies and I hand them to you guys when we have meetings. So it's been really hard to get you guys updates. I can share my screen because I don't want you guys to be looking and not have like the most updated version. And I can kind of just go through and show you what's.
Yeah, why don't you just like highlight what's relevant, as far as like any, increases, that kind of thing.
All right, I can do that to the best of my abilities. Let's see. All right. All right, let me know if you guys can see this.
Yes.
All right. Just, can you see the numbers clear? Should I make it bigger?
That's good.
Hard to, that's good. Okay. So I have the column here for the BOS approved. This is what they've voted so far. So at least you can see that. The reserve fund, we've kept level funded for now with the 150,000. I'm afraid to do page down and have it go really far. That's Pam. Moderator, same, we've left the same. We've talked to Roger Cabral, who's the new moderator. He had no changes from what he had last year. For the selectmen's budget, this was a slight change. If you look, we broke out before we had that 511300 was just salaries clerical, I think, and we changed it so that you could see, because that used to have Lisa, my administrative assistant, and the part-time person all in one, and it's kind of hard to break out. So I broke it out here so that way you can at least see at least for FY22. I actually left the old numbers in for the years before. I didn't break them out. So Lisa wasn't actually making all that money. FY22, I have 56,429. That's without any kind of COLA in it for Lisa. And then I took the amount for the part-time assistant and the amount for the special projects manager. And we grouped that together into one position. And that's the 34,000 that you see on that other line item for the part-time assistant / grants administrator. And for those of you who aren't familiar, this was the piece that Henry did. He was the planner / special projects manager. And when we've talked again with planning, and I think a lot of stuff that happened while Henry was here, it just made it really difficult to kind of delineate those jobs. So we've all kind of discussed it and said, we'll keep those separate going forward. And that's why at the selectmen's meeting, they agreed to kind of allow everything to be merged into that one part-time position. So you see that there. We have a slight increase in longevity because I will hit 5 years. And in addition, I have a contract. So I have my contractual amount in there. And everyone else is still waiting on a COLA for the selectmen. All of our expenses otherwise have been level funded from last year. At 26,000, it's a 0% increase. If anyone has any questions on any of this. Okay, I'll go down. Finance committee. I'm guessing you guys are good being level funded. If not, let me know. I can update this.
I think we need a little bit more.
So I mean, you guys don't typically, I mean, your budget is so tiny, you don't typically spend a whole lot anyway, so that's your budget.
Yeah, we're just volunteers here, that's all.
I know. Okay, so town accountant, I know Melissa's here if you want, she can speak on any of this, but essentially this is plugging in, it's the salaries, there are no COLAs yet. The senior clerk is just her step increase for the contract going forward from years. There's an addition for oh no, that was the same from last year. And the only increase in the bottom for GASB valuation, this is based on, you know, our contract. And we try to keep this as level as possible. For GASB, we get every other year, it goes from being like $1,500 to $11,000. And typically they'll do the 2 years at the same time. So what we try to do is just put the same amount in every year and we can use both years. We'll do like an encumbrance if we need to, but we'll use both years at the same time so that we're not constantly hitting you with like a lower number and then a higher number. But the amount did go up slightly. So that's what that is. But overall, the accountant has a minus 3% right now without the COLAs in there. Any questions? Sorry, Melissa, I spoke the whole thing for you.
You're on a roll, Julie.
Okay. The assessors, we haven't done them yet, although you guys did talk with
We
the
did
assessor.
them, yeah.
The treasurer collector, so the only real change in here, and it is a slight change from what you had before. What I think you guys have, she had an amount in payroll administrator salaries, and we moved it back to clerical. So essentially, the treasurer collector, if you remember last year, they had 4 full-time people in their office. 2 were full-time clerks, both in the collector's office. And then there's the full-time treasurer collector and the full-time assistant treasurer collector. And last year, because of cuts with COVID, the person who was working had left for another job, and we decided not to fill in that full-time position. And they said they would do their best to make it through the year without that full-time position. So looking at this year's budget, they've asked if they could bring back that part-time clerk, but bring them back at part-time, so just 19.5 hours. So they're still trying to be conscious of saving money for the town, but having a part-time person would definitely help their office. They have a lot going on. And this would still be somewhat of a reduction where they had a full-time position for FY20 and we cut it for 21. But everything else in salaries has been level funded and expenses as well. Any questions? Okay, let's see what else I got here. Town council, the selectmen haven't voted on yet. I think there will definitely be some talk about that budget, but for right now it's level funded. But I won't really get into too much because they haven't discussed it yet. They haven't voted it. Technology, right now, level funded expenses. The only increase is a slight increase on the salaries. It's a 2.5% increase, but it's really just a 2. There was apparently a 2.5% increase in one of the previous years, and we never budgeted for it. The school had an increase on their end, and we only did a 2%. So this kind of puts it up to what it actually should be for FY22. And this is the portion of the information. What is this title? Director of IT. Where it's Chris Oliver, who's split with the schools and the town. But otherwise, everything else has been level funded. Town clerk, you heard today, Board of Registrars, conservation, the selectmen haven't voted this yet. Marley wasn't able to make their meeting. The soil board, we've level funded, it's a small budget. There are talks of, there's an article that we're working on for town meeting that would change the soil board layout and potentially get rid of the soil board and just have the selectmen be in charge of the soil bylaw. So it's a small budget, so we left it in, and if that happens and the soil board is dissolved, we can take it off of the FY23 budget, but for now it's so small we just left it because we aren't sure what's going to happen. Planning board, you heard tonight, the selectmen didn't get to vote that one yet. Board of Appeals, I don't know if these are technically selectmen's budgets, but I'll go through them because they were voted. And I know they have a slight increase for their salaries, clerical, and for their advertising. Board of Appeals has had a ton of work this year, especially with all the remote meetings. They've just had so many projects that are coming through, and they're already overexpended for FY21, so they did put in the increase. It looks like a lot, 47%, but in actuality it's just because they have such a small budget that it seems like a lot, but it's not. And we obviously have a lot going on in town with projects, so the selectmen felt it was warranted. Town buildings, this is all level. The only increase is salaries temporary, and this is for the summer help. And we essentially just rounded it up from $12,057 to $13,000. The temporary help, the summer help, they've done a lot of extra work this year. Because of COVID, we've been able to have them longer through the year. With schools being remote and closed, a lot of the summer help we have are high school and college students. So that was the only increase we had. We do have a lot of work that goes on in town, so we felt like we should up it just a little bit. But otherwise, everything else has been level funded. The salaries maintenance are for the 2 maintenance staff that we have that work on all the buildings. And yeah, everything else has been level funded from here. I don't know if there are any questions on this one. Police, I'm gonna pass, we don't have them, and fire EMS. Building department, Jim presented this to the selectmen, so they did vote it. The only major increase in this budget right now is for the $1,000 for the cell phone, the telephone cell data. And on your budgets, they're merged together, but the selectmen asked for them to be separated. So I have a new line for the online permitting software for $12,000. And this is the new permit software that we have. We did receive it through a grant. The cost was about $30,000, and the building department, that was for like the initial load on of the software and getting the building department all set up for it. And they did go live, I think this last week. So from here on, unless they have any glitches that they're working through, any of the building permits that people need, they're on our website. There's a whole online program. And it's nice because again, with the cell data, Jim and any of the inspectors that he has all have iPads. So when they go for a building inspection, they can take pictures, they can update everything while they're there. It makes everything so much smoother. Once they kind of go through and update things, the other departments who would look at the permit and have to, key into it, it'll tell them like, hey, you have a new task on this permit, so that they can review it and sign off on it. And it's just, it makes everything flow so much easier. So this is the cost for the annual maintenance of that software. And in addition, we can kind of maintain the software and add onto it as much as we want. So we initially got building department on here, but we can get, I know Pam talked about her dog licenses, and this was something that we looked into when we first got it. We can upload the dog licenses onto this software. We need help, somebody internally, and I'm hoping that the part-time assistant that I have when I hire the person, and once we catch up with some stuff, like this would be a nice project to have that person help out with too. We just have to basically scan all of our documentation in for, Board of Health, town clerk, any other department, conservation. And it's a matter of kind of scanning in our stuff and plugging in what we need, but we can essentially add as many different departments to this platform and start using it, and that cost will still remain the $12,000. So I think it'll be a huge bonus for the town and for the residents. It just makes everything a lot easier. So that's what that cost is. I don't know if anyone has questions on that.
Julie, we still have the drone?
Yeah, we do.
And it's used by the building inspector?
It is, yep.
Excellent.
Get some good pictures. Sealer weights and measures, it's level funded. It'll get whatever COLA the rest of the departments get. It's a small budget. Emergency Management Agency, Jerry came on here, so the Board of Selectmen did vote his budget. Animal control you had on here, the selectmen approved it as well. Forestry, the selectmen approved this budget. Essentially, I know we talked about this last year because originally they had like a $20,000 or something like that budget plugged in. Maybe it was 30. And then when we had to make cuts for COVID, they ended up cutting their budget. But there's a lot of trees that need work in town. We had a tree warden that was inactive for a little while due to illness, and I think a lot kind of built up during that time. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and so they're adding $5,000 into the budget. The selectmen did approve it. They felt it was a reasonable amount, knowing how much work needs to be done for tree removal in town. Old Colony and the schools, we're gonna meet with the schools next week to kind of go through, and I'm still updating from them all these lines. Kristen actually sent me a breakdown of all the tuition lines, so don't pay too much attention because they will be updated slightly. DPW, we didn't talk about yet. This is DPW snow and ice, street lighting. We have it level funded at 20,000. If we need to, we probably could cut a little bit more from this. If you look at FY20 actuals, we're only $10,000, and big kudos to Jim Merritt on this. This is a green community initiative that we did the LED lights on the street lights, and it saved quite a lot of money. You can't see here, but I think the FY17 actuals were like in the $60,000 range, maybe even more. And you can see here, they started switching over and switching over here. And so now we're looking at 10,000. And if I remember correctly, the year to dates for this year, it's very similar to FY20's actuals for what we spent for 21. So, I mean, it's hard to pull. I mean, anything you pull out of here, it's still only a $20,000 budget, but we could if we needed to, I think.
Hopefully
Right.
they take the one on Third Street.
Yeah.
soon.
Yep. CMAS, this is under DPW. Cemetery is level funded. So the selectmen, it's a small budget, they approved it. Board of Health, the selectmen haven't reviewed yet, and I believe you had Joe on here, didn't you? Did you have
Yes.
Board of Health? Yeah.
Yeah.
Council on Aging, you had the selectmen voted to approve it as it was presented. The veterans, it's all completely level funded right now. We always look at this line with the veterans benefits, and this fluctuates obviously depending on the number of veterans that are getting benefits in town. And we've been watching it because obviously with COVID, that number could increase, but right now the 225 number looks good, so we can leave it alone. The library, you guys had on here, the selectmen approved the budget that they presented. Park and Rec, you guys had here as well, right? It's hard for me to remember
Yes.
now.
Yes,
Yep.
we did.
I've had too many meetings. Selectmen voted to approve their budget. Historical, the selectmen approved, it's level funded, $7,000. They don't have much in there. And she had, she did have a few things this year. I know we did a reserve fund transfer, so I don't see anything unexpected coming from her. Miscellaneous. The only increase that we have in here is we added this line in here for the Lake Street Improvement Committee. I know there was a reserve fund transfer this year to put 2,000 in for the secretary, just so that they have somebody who can manage all of their stuff and do the agendas and prepare documentation. So we did put this into the miscellaneous. It's just kind of easy where there are other kind of one-off departments in here. We added it to this line item instead of making a whole new budget. So they have 2,000, otherwise everything else is level funded. The retirement of debt. I mean, this kind of is what it is. We have the principal and interest here. Police station is at 210. And the interest for police station is at $119,025. The ambulance is $57,000 and $38.76 for interest. The ambulance borrowing, you'll see this will also be on the revenue page under ambulance receipts reserved, transferred to the general fund. We include this amount for covering their debt as part of that transfer. So it's listed here on the general fund retirement of debt, but it is covered by the EMS receipts reserved account. And the police station debt is on the levy as a debt exclusion. Pensions, unfortunately, there's not much we can do with this. This is the amount from Bristol County Retirement, the $1.5 million number. Obviously, it increases every year. And this year, interestingly enough, it's increased, but it could have been a lot higher. I don't have the paper in front of me, but they originally had us funding our unfunded liability. They kind of did a GASB thing a while back and did an unfunded liability assessment to the towns. And it was set to be completed, I believe, in 2028. And that was a number that was like reduced from, I want to say originally it was like 2029. I think it was last year, the year before, that they said, no, we're gonna fund it earlier and move it to 2028. And now I think because of COVID and the economy kind of going the opposite direction, they realized that keeping that number would be a huge increase for the town. So they went from 2028, they backed it off to 2032. So they gave more time for the towns to cover that unfunded liability, but it still gave us about $120,000 increase overall. And I'll mention too, this number is reduced because we prepay at the beginning of the year, the full amount. So the original number was, I believe, about $1,540,000. And we do get to save a little bit by prepaying at the beginning of the year. So unfortunately, this is the number we're stuck with from Bristol County. And it's just one of those mandates. Medicare, we upped by 2% just to keep in line with whatever salary increases for the year.
What's our unfunded pension balance?
I don't have that on me right now, but I can send you, they send us like a whole breakout page I can send to you guys.
So we have to have it paid off by 2032?
I think it's 2032.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, we're not funding any of that, but
we are
funded in, I'm sorry, so how much are we funding of the, how much are we now covering?
I wish I had it in front of me. I don't have that breakout in front of me right now, but I'll send it to you. But it's like, I want to say like 400,000.
Okay.
If I'm remembering correctly. And yeah, so that's part of their kind of GASB standards that go back a while back. It's similar to how OPEB, we have that unfunded liability to kind of cover all future people and not just the pay as you go. So I forget how long this goes back, but yeah, they keep kind of playing with the end numbers to, I think, make it more affordable for people.
Yeah.
As time goes on, but I mean, we're very close. We're very close to that ending point, but yeah, I believe it's 2032 that they backed it out to.
I just want to get a sense on what, if all of a sudden we could get a huge spike in that.
Yeah, I'll send you, I have a whole breakout. They always send like a couple pages, so I'll send that over to you guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So then insurance, I actually had a change after I presented this to the selectmen because originally for here, for all of the insurance numbers, we had plugged in 15%. Right after the selectmen's meeting on Tuesday, they came back and gave me a better estimate of 6%, although they don't have the final number yet. But they are looking at a 6% increase for our liability and insurance. And the workers' comp insurance. We also have, unemployment, I left level funded right now, just to kind of keep somewhat in the realm of where we've been the last few years. We used to budget 30,000 for this number, and we would never spend it. And I mean, if you look, FY18 is at like 12,000. The years before that, it was like 12 to 15,000, and we would budget 30. So we always had extra. But lately, the schools have had a lot that they've contributed to unemployment. And I know that was a big reason why we had this bump up here in 19 and 20. And so we're still kind of figuring out if this is a good number for next year. And I know the treasurer collector has been trying to come up with a good number herself because we've had a lot of unemployment fraud. And I don't know if we've mentioned this already, but when all of the unemployment kind of benefits came out with COVID, there's been a lot of fraud happening where people were filing, not just with municipalities, like across the board, because the money was going into your direct deposit right away due to COVID. They try to make there be no gap from when you filed to when you got your money. And we found that a lot of people were getting fraudulent claims filed, and they would report it, but because unemployment was so overwhelmed with claims, they didn't get to stop the payments right away. And, whoever was filing fraudulently was collecting, couple weeks payment under anybody's name, and it wouldn't get shut off until they figured it out. And even then, the treasurer, would have to file multiple times. This is fraud, this is fraud, this is fraud, and it would still show up on our bill. So it's been kind of a mess with that. So it's been hard to figure out what our true number has been for FY21. So we're keeping it level at the 50,000 for now. But I mean, if anything changes and, we find out that number's really increased, we can make that change. But I think the 50 should at least put us in the realm of closeness. But that's been a fun issue to work through this year. The health and dental insurance, I mentioned, it's actually a 0% increase on the premium. We did bump it up $20,000 just to kind of keep up with what we're actually seeing for people this year. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, it's hard. You're always kind of playing that, keeping it as close of an estimate as possible, because some years the people you have working are taking insurance, and other years they're bumping out. So you try to get as close as you can without being, having a deficit, but also not having too big of a buffer like we've seen in the years previous. So the 1.5 feels like a good number for us, and hopefully that'll be enough. And otherwise, a slight increase here. This is the flexible benefit, the task. And again, it's 11%, but it's only $300, and it's keeping us in line with what we've seen the last few years. So overall, a 2.1% increase estimated right now for insurance. When I get these numbers back for the liability, I'll update them to the actual, but this is their newest best estimate for us. And that is it for the general fund. So right now you can see the total that's plugged in here right now. I mean, ignore the BOS approved because that doesn't have everything filled in there, but it's a 4.3% increase. And I know the schools coming in just kind of bumped that up a lot. So.
All right, thanks, Julie.
And I will get you guys all those updates. I know there's a copy in the folder, but I'll work with Kathy and we'll see if we can come up with whatever way, again, with not being in person, to physically get you guys all these copies. But I do have them together so that you will have a completed book. Yeah.
Quick question, Julie.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, quick question for you, Julie. I'm just wondering, articles, what's the deadline for that? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, the
what we're
articles
looking
were due that last Friday in February. So I've been working on plugging everything in my spare time.
Okay.
So I have quite a list going. There are a lot of bylaw changes that are, being looked at. So I'll get that to you guys hopefully next week. I'm just trying to get it all cleaned up and pretty.
They've already been to the Board of Selectmen or no?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Julie?
I guess I just had one comment on the last part you went over, Julie. I just think that insurance and health insurance and unemployment insurance could be, it might be, I worry a little bit about that just because I know the health and the unemployment insurance rate from the state hasn't been determined yet. They're in a gigantic deficit. And they're working with trying to, soften that curve, as they say, but, we may not have any more claims, but we still may have quite a bit more expense if they don't change that, because right now by law, I think, and I don't know how it's all done, but by law, we have to make up that deficit. And if we do, everyone's unemployment rates are going to skyrocket unless they do something adjustment to the law. So I think that's a little bit concerning. And then the health insurance, I just think the other thing too is Mass Health and all the other things that people were jumping on during people who were out of work. People might have opted out of, what they're paying for health insurance because a spouse or somebody might be on Mass Health, but if they're going back to work, they might be jumping back in. So I think there could be some exposure there. Comment.
Yep. So, I mean, yeah, the health insurance, that's why we did add a little bit to it, but it's a tough one. It can go either way. You're right. For unemployment, the municipalities are a little bit different where we don't pay that percentage of unemployment tax as part of payroll. We pay direct claims, but it's really kooky because it's not necessarily if we lay somebody off, we have to pay, that amount. Of course, if that happens, we will. But say a scenario where somebody who's an employee of the town leaves voluntarily to go to another job and they work there for 6 months. So they leave our town, we didn't lay them off. They left voluntarily to go to another place. And 6 months later, they get fired from that place. We will get a claim that we'll have to pay because they go back to, I forget if it's 2 years or 5 years, they go back to all of the employers. And again, normally like a private sector company would pay into the unemployment insurance. So it wouldn't matter to them. They would just, they've been paying into that pool and it comes out, however, but for us, we don't do that. So we pay the direct claim. So it's kind of kooky and sometimes it can get frustrating because you're like, man, we didn't do anything here. Why do we have to pay unemployment for this? But we do.
Right.
So
it's a little different than what I understand from the private sector. So it sounds
Yeah.
like there might be a little less exposure there. Okay.
yeah.
Anything else from anybody? Any comments, questions before we go to old business?
So I'll just mention, let me just pull it up here. Based on what we're looking at right now for what's input, we're looking at a deficit of $459,000, $459,909 as a deficit right now for making the budget meet the revenues. So I know before it was around 100 and then it had dropped to like $80,000 deficit. But once the school budget kicked in, it's now at about 459,000. We still do need to add in COLAs. So we definitely have our work cut out for us in terms of making cuts. And we're still, we're not sure what the state is looking at for state aid, but I will mention that the American, what is the act called? American Rescue Act that just passed could be a help to the town. I know that kind of the details are still being worked out and I don't have said details, but there's definitely a lot still in play for our budget for next year. So minus 459 for now, but stay calm. We're going to work through it.
Yeah, we always do.
Yeah.
Always find a way.
We were gonna figure out like what a 1% increase would mean for the deficit. And I'm sorry, I don't know if it came in, maybe I missed it, but.
No, I didn't get to do that yet.
Okay.
You're saying like what a 1% COLA would be?
Yeah, what a 1%, adjustment would cost us across the board for everybody that isn't incorporated in that yet.
I'll put that on.
Add it to your list.
I don't want to add more. And actually, since I'm already adding to your list, I know we got information from the school. That's still summary information, Julie. I was looking for.
I thought so.
I was looking for line item and not to be greedy, but in an Excel format would be fabulous. But if we can do that, I'll take a printout. But I was looking for the detail, not summary. That's still summary. So I'm happy to call Kristen and like, I'm looking for something like I used to get for Old Colony, like, you know, where we had I used to get everything when I used to sit at those meetings. So,
I'll reiterate it again. I agree. I did ask, and that's what they sent us. So I'll reiterate again and see if I can get anything more. It could, I mean,
I'll go to the school. I'll pick it up. I mean, I'm 2 miles down the road, so, you know,
you do your work and I'll do my work and we'll see if we can get anything.
Yeah.
Also, can the school department provide us expenditures from the CARE Act?
I'm sure, yeah. Kristen's been keeping track of that. I know she hasn't been on the selectmen's meetings for a while. I think her board didn't want her to come to the selectmen's meetings anymore on budget matters. But when she was coming, she always had an update for the selectmen on that. And I'm sure she's been keeping it up for her school committee. So I'm sure she'll have it.
Yeah, she definitely has one because she's been keeping contact with me on the case. So she has that in every detail, every invoice. So that she can definitely get to you.
We made a deposit of $14.90.
Yeah, I think the transparency in this, well, if we can get more transparency in the school budget, it'll be greatly appreciated by everybody in the finance committee, because it'll make it easier for us to look at things.
No, Diane, that wasn't. It's on the back.
Okay, we're gonna go on to old business. Does anybody have any old business to discuss tonight? All right, if there's no old business, what I'd like to bring up under new business is possibly trying to hold in-person meetings when we do our budget deliberations. But I would like a consensus on this and have everybody in agreement with it before we decide to do that. I think the police station would be a good venue to do this because it's big enough in there, in their little auditorium conference room that they have. I think we could spread out adequately. And that way we can just kind of discuss things freely. And I think it'll be a little bit easier to do that in that type of setting. How does everybody else feel with regards to that?
If I can start before you guys, the only caveat I'll say is that we are still under capacity limitations from the governor. I completely agree. Like, in-person meetings are so much more beneficial for certain things. So right now the restrictions are still 10 people per 1,000 square feet. I'm not sure how big the police station is, that room. I can find out, but
well, if that's not, I don't mean to cut you off. So if we could find a bigger place,
yeah,
then we'll do it in a bigger place. So maybe the school library, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that you just need to be aware of: 10 people per 1,000 square feet. And then obviously masks are required the whole time and social distancing is still required. So you have to be as spread out as possible. But yeah, if you can find a location, I'll just kind of start you with that so we can find something that'll work.
I think that's a pretty good sized room. And from what I remember, I think that's probably more than 1,000 square feet. It's gotta be.
How about something outside?
Something outside.
I don't have an answer. I'm just giving you my.
Yeah,
opinion.
well, then we're at the mercy of the weather.
Well, it all depends on the weather. Nice sunny day, maybe 75 degrees, little sun.
What a dreamer.
Yeah, without luck, it'll be hail and rainy and windy. So how is that something, Julie? Is this something that we have to get approval to do?
No, so the selectmen yesterday voted to allow boards to have in-person meetings as long as they meet those requirements that are outlined for us right now and like follow those guidelines. I know it's harder, like you have such a large group that it's going to be harder for you to have them, but if you can do it and meet those guidelines, they're all for it. Go, you can choose whatever works for you, in person or remote meetings.
So if we had one person over 10, we would have to double the square footage. Is that correct?
No, it's just relational.
Okay.
So,
All right.
1,200, just do it the math.
Yep.
Just a quick question. I'm wondering, is it possible that we could hold a hybrid meeting, or is that too complicated? Some remote, some in person? I'm in favor of meeting in person, but I know others may not feel that way. I'm just wondering, like the school has hybrid systems, some remote, some in class.
Well,
Eric, sorry, Mike, I did a meeting, a client meeting where some of us were online via Zoom and some people were in person. It was a disaster because everybody in the room could hear themselves. Those of us on Zoom couldn't hear what was being said, only the person facing the camera. So we'd have to figure out a way where everybody could still hear. So hearing became a really big issue. You can't have multiple Zooms up, multiple computers up, because then you're going to have the echoing.
Right.
So that if we can figure that part out,
Well,
I think that'll work. But I just know that particular meeting was just the most unproductive I've ever attended.
so long as we can meet
one was for the
the
janitorial,
capacity
the other one
requirements,
was for fogging it with the-
is anybody here not comfortable with meeting in person?
I'll be fully vaccinated, so I'm good.
Same here.
God bless you.
All right, so anybody else?
I'm fine, but I just have to, full disclosure, I'm gonna be doing a lot of traveling in the next month or so for business.
Well, I'm
So I guess-
assuming we'll have masks on.
Yeah, I'm just saying remote would allow me to probably attend more meetings, but honestly, I'd rather be there. So.
Well, as long as you have a mask on, you have no temperature, fever prior to coming in. And we're going to be social, we're going to be distanced. We're not going to be on top of each other. I think that would be fine.
Do we need to do that kind of protocol where you take temperatures and ask questions? And do we need to do that?
I mean, a lot of our facilities have the temperature kiosks already set up. So like if you did it at, say, the police station, they have a kiosk. So I would say, why not? You just sit in front of it. But I mean, we can take it as it goes. We have a lot of PPE, and like we have like the handhelds, scanners too. So if this becomes a regular thing, we can always, leave it with Kathy or whoever. Have a whole bunch of PPE that she can bring to the meeting so that you guys always have it set up. But a lot of our town buildings already have that.
Bob, you okay with meeting in person when we
Yeah.
do our deliberations?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
even mentioned the council on aging. They have a big room there where we had the new police chief came into office and everything. That helped. Gee, we had maybe 50, 60 people in that room, but that's a big room. I think that's even bigger than the police station.
So it's more than 1,000 square feet.
Oh yeah, sure.
Well, then, yeah, that could be a good option then.
Or even, like I say, either that or the auditorium in the school. But I think it would be a lot easier and cheaper for the town if we had it like at the senior center over there. It's a bigger room. I mean, we'll go over there and take a visit. See what.
I'm not opposed to that. Julie, would we have to reach out to to the director there?
Well, they do things at night also. I mean, it wouldn't last like that long, from till about 9 o'clock or so.
But the police station's always open, right? If the council on aging isn't always open, police station.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Should we try out with the police station first because somebody's there, and then if that's not going to be big enough for us, then we can try like the council on aging, which I totally agree.
Yeah.
Getting somebody to open the building, heat it up, that sort of thing. If we've got another facility, that's all. But I think those two options are better than the school.
have somebody give us an official, you know, if the room is 1,000 square feet or not, or, sure.
I'll reach out to the police department myself. I'll contact them, ask them about the size of the room, and if it would be available to us to have a meeting there. So I'll work on that this coming week, because I think we still have, how many more, Kathy, how many more meetings do we have for budget presentations?
Right now, 2. Next week is the school, and the following week, I think it's the 31st, is DPW, police, and now fire.
Okay. All right, so it looks like everybody's on board with meeting in person. I don't believe Bob St. Jean is going to be available, so it'll basically be us, meeting in person. So we'll probably be under the 10-person requirement, I think, unless we call somebody in that we have questions for, then maybe we'd go over it, but we'll make sure we have a room that's bigger than 1,000 square feet. So that'll solve that issue. And that's what we'll do going forward.
Do you want to do that for the school meeting? Because they had kind of asked about it, but I didn't think that there would be enough space anywhere unless they had something available for their meeting next Wednesday.
So the school would like to meet in person?
They would prefer to meet in person, but I kind of explained to them, the parameters. And I think in order to fit all of us, plus the selectmen, plus the school committee and anyone else who's speaking from the school, they would need to do it in that auditorium, the school auditorium.
Where we have the town meetings.
And
Yeah, it's certainly big enough in there.
So I just don't know how, because usually they do like the projectors and stuff like that. So I just mentioned that to them, like, I don't know if that would be helpful.
So I know we've had a meeting in the library in the past. That room's not big enough.
Oh.
Not for all of us, plus
No.
the school committee, plus the
All right,
selectmen.
so then we'd have to do it in the auditorium. They'd probably have to have some kind of a screen set up on the stage.
We had a
So, I mean,
meeting there before and they had the screen on the stage.
Right, yeah, so if that can be done, I mean, I'm all in favor of meeting with the school in person next week, if we can pull that off between now and then. So Julie, do you want to reach out to Kristen to see if they could do that?
Yeah, I'll keep you updated. I had reached out to her and responded and kind of said that, and I'm not really sure what their thoughts are.
Okay.
If that room is available, because I'm not sure what they're using it for right now with school and with school coming back full time and stuff. And then also whether it would be easier for them to present in there if they have this, the screen or whatever, versus like a Zoom sharing. So I'll let you guys know. I know Kathy's in the emails too, so.
Okay. Yeah, so Kathy, you'll just, when you send out your email, you'll indicate whether or not we're going to do a Zoom or an in-person meeting and where it'll be. Okay. All right, sounds like a plan. I know we have some minutes to approve from February 24th. Kat?
We do? Can't
They'll
hear
go
you.
on next week.
They'll be next week?
Got to send them out.
Oh, okay, all right. I saw it on the agenda. That's why I was just reading off. Okay. All right, so next week we're meeting with the school and it'll be determined whether or not we're gonna be doing Zoom or an in-person session. So we'll find that out. I will reach out to the police department to find out if we can do deliberations there when we're ready to do that. And I think that's it for tonight, unless anybody has anything else to bring up.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Is there all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.